Hello. Hey guys, you have Suzy, Bureau, and Jordan here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. But Jordan, if you've got any sort of jokes like you did last time, by all means. I
Well,
think
lucky for you
people should
all.
be able to see your face if they have that little dialogue box open.
Yes. Well, I have to go with my classics again. Again, hi everyone. I'm Jordan. I'll introduce myself again more formally later, even though I think a lot of you we have met virtually already. But I have a couple go-to jokes that have been really winning people over recently. Um, I'm just gonna let this be my new comedy practice ground, which is great as we wait for some people to join.
You're
So
iterating.
the first one, and Suzy thankfully is the only person who's required to laugh because her video's up. She's the only person I can see. So, first joke. Suzy, you can't mute yourself because I need you to laugh at this. There are two muffins in an oven. One muffin says, "It's getting kind of hot in here." The other muffin turns, "Ah, a talking muffin."
That was not a good fake laugh. This is the second time I've heard that joke, to be fair. I knew what was coming.
I know you did. Well, you're also going to know what's coming right now, which is, as we know, high school can be tough. And in the lunchroom, there's a lot of dynamics you're figuring out. And this joke is like, how does this go again?
You want me to tell the joke? I remember the joke.
I'm just telling this joke. Suzy's got to practice. Perfect.
I'm not the joke person. You're the joke person. These poor students are like, who are these people and why are we going on this program with them? Okay, so high school, very difficult time, difficult for myself, or, sometimes great too. I also had a really great time in high school. But two soda bottle high school students are sitting in the cafeteria. And what does one say to the other when they start being rude or mean or talking trash?
I have no idea.
I'm not telling any more jokes. That did not go well.
I like the variations that, like, you hear a joke and then when you share it later on, it still is your own version of it. So I think
that's what I remember about the joke. For the three folks who are here, there is a Q&A section of the webinar that we're going to use throughout the webinar. You can go ahead and use it now, and you could use it to make fun of Jordan and I for how
that's true.
Bad or great, maybe. I don't know what you think. We are jokes.
Great. Mm-hmm.
And the great news is that all of this is being recorded right now. If you want to watch it again later, or for your fellow students who are going to be on the program who maybe were unable to make a webinar or you wanted to review it later, you can see it in all of its glory.
Okay, wait, I thought of one more. What is Mozart's favorite fruit?
I don't know. What is it?
Banana. Banana. Banana.
Yeah,
is that
I
him?
got that.
I'm actually not positive if that's him, but classic music, bananas.
Yeah,
It's a good
the
time.
was there. It may have been a reach, but it was good.
Yeah.
Actually pretty good.
Yeah, totally.
And still no response back on the jokes in the Q&A. I will assume that means you guys loved them.
Totally. And also your video just paused a little bit, so I don't know if that's something you want to switch networks on.
I think it should be. Ooh, we have somebody who gave a haha fake laugh. I like it.
Thank you.
I do think it's better than nothing. Cool.
I appreciate.
It's true. All right. So I think, Jordan, what do you think? Should we get started? Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
what do you
And
think?
I'm realizing also, I know my internet actually seems to be going in and out a little bit. So as long as you're not experiencing that, you just go right ahead, and I'll probably turn my video off to alleviate that.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
go ahead and Jordan, please shoot me a text if you do see me go offline. I'm not experiencing that. And the people on the line, it seems like you found that chat box. Go ahead and chat in. Jordan is going to be wielding the chat and then the Q&A for this conversation. So if you do experience any difficulties, let us know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going and we can get back into it. The great news is I think that this will work just fine, but if it doesn't, you will receive the recording via email as well. So Jordan, you comfortable with me getting started? All right. So
Absolutely.
welcome, guys. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. It is going to be focused on Design Thinking 101, but we're going to use the time to give you a bit of a better understanding of what to expect in the 2-week program. And in particular, there are going to be more specifics about week 2, because week 2 is all rooted in design thinking. So hi, my name is Suzy Bureau. I am the founder of Give Back Hack, and I'll speak a little bit more to myself later. But want to make sure we set the right context. So throughout the entire Rustic Pathways program, and this webinar is included, we want you to ask questions really proactively. Dig in when you don't understand something or you're curious about something. And we will go ahead and work to give you the best answers that we have. And from there, in this specific webinar, you guys are going to have a Q&A box that you can ask questions in. There are 2 boxes for you to interact with us throughout this process. One is this Q&A box, which keeps specific questions really nice and organized. The other opportunity for you to interact with us, which I see at least one of you has found, is that chat box. So feel free to also use that to participate with things that maybe are not questions. So for example, right now, maybe find that box and let us know what country, city, state, or wherever you are that you're calling in from. And Jordan might use that a little bit later on. So again, this is really great advice just for life overall. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to do that, and especially now. All right, so you are all here because you're going to be participating in the Rustic Pathways Critical Issues Summit. That is going to start with week 1, where all of you will arrive in one of 3 locations. So this first week, you're going to be in one of 3 places, kind of separate from the full group. Some of you will be looking at access to water in Cambodia, others gender equality in Thailand, and others looking at access to education in Vietnam. At the end of week 1, we will all come together for week 2, which is going to be our action week. This is going to be a few different things. We're going to change it up and hopefully make it really exciting for you. Week 2, when we dig into action, is going to be part inspiring talk from speakers that are going to provide you with really great perspective and help you understand things in a new way based on their direct experience. It's going to be part design sprint to help you learn about the issues that you examined in week 1 and continue to learn about in week 2. And that's going to help you understand how you might be best equipped to solve those issues. A design sprint is a technical term in some cases. It's really defined as a time-bound set of activities that comes in 5 stages, which you're going to learn a little bit more about in this webinar because of the 5 stages of design thinking. That is going to allow you to learn about the issues and also how you can create change. And that learning is going to be leveraged for your social innovation design challenge. And that challenge is brought to you by Give Back Hack. We're going to be the ones that facilitate that process in a similar way to what we do for folks across the US. And at the end of that, there's going to be $10,000 provided by Rustic Pathways that the winning team will have the opportunity to use to move their plan forward. So really exciting opportunity for everyone involved. And we are here to help you through all of that. So you heard a little bit, mostly in joke form, from Jordan a little bit earlier. She is the leader of the summit overall. I'm the leader for week 2. And then that's me there on the right. And I'm going to be focusing in on the design sprint and the innovation challenge. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. Jordan?
Hello there, everyone. So I'm going to keep my video off, which hopefully isn't too mysterious, but I know you got to see my face earlier with all my beautiful joke telling. But I am so grateful to be part of the summit. It's something that over the last 2 years, I've had the chance from the very beginning to think about what would this dream look like, to use Rustic Pathways and the incredible global network we have and resources we have to be leveraged for this idea of bringing students together from all around the world to talk about who they are as change makers, who they might be as entrepreneurs, and the ideas that they want to bring back to their community. So this has just been a gift to be part of. I'm so thrilled to finally meet you all in a couple weeks. I know that we'll be meeting in Thailand soon. As Suzy mentioned, I'll be there for the second week with you at Rice Fields at the base house. Is so exciting. Not only am I so ready to dig into the content and see what you come up with and the ideas that are formed after using the design thinking process, but to know that I'll get to finally meet the students who have the passion and drive to want to join together in Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam. That is what makes me the most just ready to be there and meeting everybody and being in the midst of these conversations and connecting. Also, just because I forgot to mention this now, but I've been working with Rustic on and off over the last 5 years. I've led programs around the world in New Zealand and Costa Rica and Fiji and Cambodia. But we've never been a part of anything like this. This is really special to see so many students come together with this common mission of learning who they are and exploring who they are as change makers, that even after years working with Rustic, I know this is going to be an unparalleled experience. So thank you for letting me be part of it. Thank you all for signing up to come and opting into such a unique and transformative experience.
Absolutely. And I am really grateful to get to be a part of that too. Grateful to you, Jordan, for being the leader that really drove a lot of this to make this happen for all of us, but also really grateful for everyone who's attending the summit, all of the students who are on this call now, and all of the students that we'll get to meet in week 2. I cannot wait. So from there, I'll talk a little bit about myself. Hey, I'm Suzy. I am from Columbus, Ohio. That's where I am now. I'm sitting in my home saying hello to you. And I'm the founder of Give Back Hack, the organization that's making the Week 2 Design Sprint and Innovation Challenge happen. I am the facilitator for that event, and I am also the person who has kind of pulled through all the content to create a really great experience. I have a background in for-profit entrepreneurship and technology commercialization as well, and those are the principles that we apply in Give Back Hack for social entrepreneurship. So this is a picture from us at one of our events, and we'll be doing something similar with you guys in week 2. But what is Give Back Hack? Give Back Hack is a national community that started here in Columbus, Ohio, with a 3-day event where experts come together from primarily 3 types of fields. Experts in social impact, so people who have experienced the issues themselves, or they work at nonprofits or social enterprises and see the issues, feel the issues every day and truly understand them. And they either are the people that are impacted by them and or they work with those people regularly. The second type of attendee is the technology type of person. So a designer, developer, somebody who can make things happen through a more technical process. And then the third is a startup or business person, somebody who understands how to commercialize technology. The people who attend our events are everywhere from high school students. We have had multiple high school students win our event and walk away with up to $5,000 to move their ideas forward. all the way up to experienced professionals with years and years of industry experience. But that all is backed by a design thinking and lean startup methodology. And that's what we're going to do together in week 2. We are, since then, our organization has evolved. We have events in Cleveland, Philadelphia, Baltimore, etc. And we also do a lot of work to help people create and validate ideas for social impact. And that's really what week 2 of the Critical Issues Summit is all about. So really excited to share that with you. In addition to Give Back Hack, I have a really strong passion for being involved in the community, and I've facilitated all sorts of different startup and entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship events across the globe. This one in particular is in Mexico City. That's me down there. Not a very flattering picture. I don't know why I picked that one. And I have also facilitated a conference called Startup Extreme that brings together entrepreneurs from across the globe who are a little bit later stage, who have raised capital, who have working products, and are looking to scale those. That's me there. It was really hard to find a picture at Startup Extreme rafting because all of the other ones I am literally underwater. But I picked this picture in particular to share with you because it shares kind of a number of my passions. I love startups, I love entrepreneurship, and I love traveling. My guess is you might too, especially if you're going on this program. But I also love being outside. I'm not a huge extreme sport person. It's certainly a lot of fun, but I don't have a lot of practice there. But I really enjoy being active. I'm a big cyclist as well. And enjoy being a part of the community. This is a picture from a local festival here in Columbus that I helped run. We created this massive 25 to 50 square foot life-size light bright board, so you could take those cups out. And this was really a cool thing that we created together. Max on the left was the artist on the project. And then I also teamed up with some artists to do a mural in our community as well. And I picked these 2 pictures to share because I don't really think about myself, or rather in the past, I never really thought of myself as a creative or person who designs things. When I went through college, I studied business. I've always been someone who has enjoyed more the analytical side of things and has struggled a little bit when it came to being, more creative. And for that reason, I thought that these 2 things were things that other people did, not things that I would do. And as time moved on, I was introduced to this concept of design thinking, which really opened up my mind to think about things really differently. And through that process, I realized that I was limiting myself pretty strongly. And so got involved in more things like this because I thought it'd be a cool thing to do. And I shared that passion and we found a way to do it. And I share that because I didn't realize before that experience that everything around us is designed. And experiences are designed by all kinds of people, not just the traditional people you think of as designers, people who are creative or artists or formally trained in the subject. Experiences or products even are designed by all types of people around you, regardless of that background. And it might be easy to look at certain objects, maybe like your computer or your phone, and see that those are designed. But even the way you interact with experiences is designed. So for example, when you join this webinar, that process was designed. When you come to Rustic Summit, that process was designed too. And it wasn't necessarily designed by a formal designer, but instead somebody who looked around and made observations about their surroundings. Maybe they created prototypes, maybe they experimented to see how people would react with those in order to find solutions. And so in that way, we are all designers. And in fact, you've probably designed something yourself already this week. Maybe it was an experience you had with your friends, what you were doing this weekend. Maybe you designed that experience. And so reorienting your thinking to everyone as a designer is a core tenet of design thinking. And so let's dig deeper into that. What is design thinking, this thing we're here to talk about today? It's a movement, and it was really made popular by IDEO, which is an international design and consulting firm in Palo Alto, which is Silicon Valley, and also through the Stanford D School, their School of Design. But the magic of design thinking is that it wasn't just these two players that really push design thinking forward. It's not this limited set of people, but instead there are leaders across the world who are growing the method, who are expanding it and leveraging it in different ways. And at a high level, that's what it is. It's a method for creative problem solving. And that's really the magic of design thinking. It is this shared approach that's not specific to one or two sets of people, but really highly adapted, highly leveraged across the world to almost any type of work. And that means that there are endless resources available when you get stuck, when you go ahead and Google it. And so that's really the value of design thinking. Not that these two players, started or pushed it forward, and they have a lot of really great information, but because everyone is kind of playing with it and using it and trying different things and expanding on it. You can find design applications for what you do in your everyday life. You can find people who are leveraging design thinking for their work, for social impact projects, for pet projects, or even people leveraging design thinking for how you communicate with people every day. So it's this highly adaptable framework. And that's why it's a really exciting thing for us to get to learn in week 2 together. So what is design thinking actually? The more formal definition is that design thinking is an iterative, human-centered process in which we seek to understand our audience and user, challenge our own assumptions, and redefine problems. This allows us to identify alternative strategies and solutions that might not instantly be apparent with our initial level of understanding. At the same time, design thinking provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. It's a way of thinking and working that's very hands-on in its methodology. So let's dig deeper, because that definition has a lot of specific words that mean a lot, but kind of come off as jargon. The first one is iterative. This means that design thinking is not something that we do once and we're done. When it comes to approaching a problem, we don't know everything. We're never going to know everything. When we first start out, we need to really dig in and learn. But even as we move forward and we learn more, everything around us is constantly changing. So design thinking is this iterative process where we go through it once and we continue to go through it because it allows us to continue to check our assumptions and our understanding and continues to allow us to learn new things. From there, it's human-centered. So this means that we put people right there at the middle of everything that we do. Some things are just not designed with humans in mind first and foremost. If you've ever had a frustrating experience, chances are it's highly likely that it could be due to that process being designed for something other than you. Maybe it's designed for efficiency to get people through something really quick. And so that makes it a little bit hard on you as the person who uses the thing. Maybe it's designed for a computer algorithm. Maybe when you fill out a form, you have to fill out things, your first name in one field, your last name in the other field. That's not designed for you. That's designed for a computer to be able to process that information. And we want to create a really great experience for the human behind the problem, which is why we really focus in on that. We're going to learn a bit more about that later. From there, it's a process in which we seek to understand our audience and user, challenge assumptions, and redesign problems. And that means that we start with the person in mind. We start with the audience that is intended to use the thing that we're creating. If that's a product or a service or an experience, we start with the person who will be interacting with whatever that thing is. This allows us to understand our own assumptions and to really challenge them. Because we don't know everything. We are probably walking in with a lot of assumptions, things that we think will or will not happen during the program. And when we get there, those assumptions are going to be challenged. Some of the things that we are thinking might happen might be true, but a lot of them will start to understand that things are a little bit different than what we assumed they would be like. And this framework really allows you to bring those things to light. And when you can bring those things to light, when we can acknowledge that maybe the things that we thought aren't as true, that allows us to really look and redefine a problem in a different way. And all of that allows us to identify different strategies, different solutions that aren't so easily apparent with our initial level of understanding. And that is what is required to make a breakthrough when it comes to creating true, meaningful change. My guess is that you guys are coming on this program because you're change makers already and you want to be highly effective ones. And the design thinking methodology allows you to do more there, to better understand and continue to challenge and come up with new types of solutions. Because if it was easy to solve these problems, or if it was easy to create a solution that works for everyone, it's possible somebody may have already done it. These problems exist because they're challenges, because they're big, and because we need to think differently about them. From there, design thinking takes a solution-based approach to solving problems. It's important that we keep our minds and our hearts open as we go through this process to make sure that we are not just seeing the issues or opportunities on the ground, but looking at those as things that we have the ability to impact in some way very positively. There are a lot of solutions that we can be a part of. And this allows us to stay really hopeful and to create positive change as opposed to being really problem-oriented, which can create a feeling of hopelessness. And from there, it's hands-on. So all through week 1, week 2, you're not going to be sitting with a pen and paper taking notes. You might do a little bit of that because it's really helpful to have context written down, but it's going to be really hands-on for the majority of the time. We're going to make things, we're going to put them in front of people, we're going to test stuff out ourselves, and that's what design thinking is all about. And design thinking provides a lot of opportunities. This is why we use it. We use it because we don't know everything and we may not know where to start, especially with the critical issues. I've spent some time in Southeast Asia in the past, but not a ton of time understanding what these issues look like. So if you asked me to start something to create a solution, I wouldn't know where to begin. And even if I did know where to begin, we would probably end up in a really different spot as we went through the process and we learned. So design thinking is a method that allows you to it teaches you a starting point and also gives you the opportunity to learn once you have started over time. Most importantly, we want to actually help people, and design thinking is going to be a structured process that helps us understand how to do that the right way. We want to make real, sustainable, and scalable impact, and design thinking is this method-based approach tried again and again by people across the globe that can help us get there. So that's why we do it. And how do we do that? How do we make a real impact? Because that's big, right? It sounds like a really big thing, and it is. And it starts with these 3 kind of levels of analysis. So this is also a core principle of design thinking. Remember, we talked about design thinking being human-centered, and that's what this person is over here. This is our human in the discussion. Sometimes that human is a customer, the person who pays for a product. Sometimes it's a user, somebody who uses the product. We use things all the time that we don't pay for. Facebook is a really good example. We're users to them. It might be an audience in general or a stakeholder. So you'll hear all sorts of words leveraged to talk about this human here on the left, but at the core of it, it's the stakeholder, the person who holds a stake in the product that you're creating, the person who uses it or buys it, etc. We start with these people in mind. And then from there, we have these 3 dimensions in order to create a successful solution. It needs to start with desirability. So what do the people who have a stake in your product need? What do they want? What problems do they need solved? What opportunities exist? And that's what desirability is. From there, we might have a ton of really great ideas on how to solve a problem, but what is feasible? So what can we do technically or organizationally to create a solution? It might be really desirable to fly all of us out into outer space to have a really great experience together and bond and see the moon, but technically, is that feasible? Do we have the technology to do that? I don't know. And so how do we dig in and understand what is technically feasible or what we have the ability to do organizationally, given that right now we are splattered across the entire world listening to this webinar? The third dimension is viability. So what is financially viable? How do you pay for it? How do you sustain this solution, this idea, this product, this experience over time? Maybe it is actually feasible to fly all of us out into outer space to go to the moon, because I know Elon Musk and SpaceX are currently working on solving this problem. I think I heard that maybe they sell seats on their aircrafts for normal people to go up into space. So maybe that's actually feasible, but is it viable? Probably not. I don't know where that money would come from. So what we really want in the solutions that we're going to create in week 2 is something that can be balanced across these 3 dimensions, which again is a core foundation of design thinking. And so when we can be in the sweet spot in the middle of these 3 things, that's how we make real impact that can sustain and scale and move forward over time. So that's kind of the beginning and start of design thinking and some of its core methodology. But from there, how do we do this in week 2? It's a lot, right? And we do it by going through the 5 stages of design thinking. It starts with empathy and problem definition, and then moves into ideation, prototyping, and testing. And we're going to get to do all of that during the Rustic Pathways Critical Issues Summit. These first 2 stages of design thinking are going to be primarily in week 1. And these last 3 stages are going to be what we really dig deep into in week 2. Of course, we'll be doing all of these things in both week 1 and week 2 in some way, shape, or form, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Primarily, this will be how it's broken up for you. So let's dig into that first stage of design thinking. Here it says empathize, sometimes it's called empathy. And what that is really learning about the audience for whom you are designing. So you guys are gonna do so much of this in week 1. It's gonna be magical. And because this is the core of the human-centered design process. Empathy focuses on understanding the people within the context of their everyday lives, what happens to them on a daily basis, how they react to that, what they say, what they do, what they hear. All of these things impact and influence the life of the people, of the human that you are designing for. And so it's really important to have a strong grounding in empathy and understanding. And so we're going to spend a full week in week 1 doing that, and even some time into week 2, helping you sort through that experience, take structured notes on it, and process it so that you can truly understand what's going on. The second stage of design thinking is define, sometimes also called definition. And this is where you construct a very specific point of view based on audience needs and insights. So in this empathy mode, we're going real big. We are learning everything we possibly can about the humans beyond our problems, and that's going to be a lot. And so how do you create something for all of that? Humans are complex and experience all sorts of unique things all the time. So how do we go about working to solve it? And it's by defining, by bringing some specific clarity and focus into the specific problem or opportunity that you're hoping to address. And this should really be based on your learnings from the audience. That's why empathy is the first step and definition is the second one. And this allows us to identify the specific challenge and opportunity that maybe we're most passionate about, or maybe there's the greatest opportunity to solve, and therefore for you to focus your efforts to make the most impact possible. From there, when we go specific into defining, we move into the stage of ideation. And that is where we go really big yet again. We move out and brainstorm and go really wide to find a variety of potential solutions to solve a problem. There's more than one way to address any specific type of issue. And this is what happens in ideation. So once we really understand our audience and the nuances of their lives, we can start to define a specific piece that we know best and then ideate around how we might be able to solve it. And this really allows us to transition from looking at the problems and opportunities that we see within the communities during week one to creating potential solutions for that. And once we've ideated, we're going to pick a couple of those ideas and we're going to prototype them. We're going to build some sort of representation of one or more of the ideas to show others. And a prototype can be anything. It can be a wall of notes, something like a storyboard, like what they do before they create a movie or a TV show. It can be a small physical item that may or may not do the thing that you think it would do. When they were prototyping phones early on, they carried around a block of wood as a prototype and said, anytime you want to add a button to this small thing, I want you to look at it. I want you to write it down. I want you to think about what you would use it for. And that really helped the early folks who were working on mobile devices figure out, wow, this is a small piece of real estate. We can't put everything on there that we want. Sometimes it's a role-playing activity where you put someone in a specific situation and then walk them through different things that they would experience if they were at your event or at your experience that you're creating. And from that, we get to see how people react to things. This is a way for us to practice to understand how people would react in a really low risk way. Because when we talk through something, we miss some of the small nuanced details that can make a really big difference to people in their lives, to an experience. And in some cases, completely negate an entire experience. And in that way, this small experiment can be incredibly effective when it comes to making an idea much more tangible and allows us to learn through creation and quickly gain feedback from that creation. And we gain that feedback during this testing phase. So after we've created a prototype or a plan for a prototype, we're going to return to our audience or a proxy for that audience and start to test ideas for open and honest feedback. And this allows us to solicit feedback about a specific experience and not just an idea. And that gets us through some of the really long, difficult conversations of, what do we think a person would do if this? Or what would happen if that? We don't know the answers to that. We can talk through it and maybe get to some of the answers, but it's still unknown until we go through the process of actually making the thing happen. And that's what testing allows us to do. Most importantly, as you're testing and you see how people respond to your product, it starts to create empathy for the people that you're designing for. It gives you new perspective on how they live their lives and how they would live their lives in the context of the thing that you're trying to create. And in that way, design thinking isn't this linear process, it's a cycle. So based on the feedback from your audience, you'll make modifications to your plan and you'll go through all of these stages again. So design thinking, we teach it as if it's a set of stages, but it's far more than that. It's this cycle that we iterate on, that we can go through time and time again to continue to learn, to continue to evolve, and to continue to make better products, experiences, services, etc. So design thinking is not just that linear path that we talked about. It's this big mass of looping back to different places in the process. That is a quote by David Kelly, again, a big pioneer within both of the institutions that have pushed design thinking forward. And it's a really important point. Design thinking is not just one step. We're going to look at it as a series of steps to reduce some complexity and make it easier to learn and easier for us to go through. And in that way, that's part of the method of design thinking that helps keep us organized and know where to go next and where to start. But throughout the process, you're going to go from empathy to ideas. Maybe you're in week 1 and you see a situation, you're like, well, if they only had this, then it would be so much easier. That's an idea. And so that's going to happen while you're in the phase where you're looking to understand people. And that's a great thing. Maybe write that idea down or keep that in mind as you continue to learn about people. As you define the problems, you're going to think about things a bit differently, which is going to help you better understand your audience a bit better. As you go through ideation, you'll start to think about the people and say, oh, they wouldn't use it this way or that way, etc. As you prototype, and especially when you test, you're going to start understanding, okay, our prototype didn't work well this way. We need to maybe modify it in that way. And in this way, design thinking can kind of move through these processes in a bunch of different ways. And that's okay, because at a high level, we're looking to understand the audience, explore different opportunities, and create something that can go ahead and help people. And we should always be trying to understand and exploring and iterating as we go. And in this way, this allows us to fail often in order to succeed sooner. So what does that mean? I don't feel great when I fail things, even though it's a really great opportunity for me to learn. And when we talk about failing here, it's a bit of a different context than when you fail a test, right? I used to do that a decent amount. I've failed things in my life, and that felt awful. But this isn't that type of failure. This isn't, big failure. This is these small tests, these small prototypes. And that's why we do design thinking. That's why we prototype. A prototype allows us to create something that's a fraction of the big experience. Maybe it's just kind of pantomiming, walking through a situation. That small prototype allows us to understand what would or would not work. And that's this fail often piece. If we can fail in these really small ways time and time again, we learn a lot about what doesn't work, and we can try different things, learn what does work, and succeed in a bigger way much sooner than we would be able to if we weren't working in these small iterative cycles. And this is a best practice of design thinking and something that I've used to help people commercialize social enterprise products, but also for-profit technology and products too. So learning this methodology is going to allow you to grow in unbelievable ways. And it's a lot easier said than done. I'll admit to that. But you have a lot of really smart people here to help you, and we're all on a journey together. Remember, design thinking is iterative. So even though I've been through this a lot of times and have done it a bunch of different ways, I still learn something every time, and we will learn together, especially from the knowledge you acquire in week 2, leading into the action week, the knowledge you learn in the immersion week 1, leading into that action week of week 2. And you have so many people who are there to support you. In addition to Jordan and I, we have Snehal, who is from Baltimore, Maryland, who will help facilitate the experience, and Emily, who is also from Columbus, Ohio, who will be there to help you through every step of the way. We also have some amazing speakers from various places across the globe, Anuj, Yasmin, and Dahlia, who will be there to share their experience and to help you through your ideas and to give you inspiration. And we're going to be able to do it together. So that's the end of our Design Thinking 101 overview. But my guess is you probably have some questions about our innovation challenge as well, and what that's going to look like. So it's going to start with week 1, where we dig into empathy and definition. That'll be where you really focus in on understanding people, challenges, and opportunities. And that'll lead into week 2, which includes those experts to inspire you and walk you through that process. And all of that work is going to culminate in this $10,000 innovation challenge. And what does that look like? Specifics there are going to be based around this design thinking methodology that we pull you through, that we facilitate throughout week 1 and week 2. So specifically, you'll receive guidance throughout the experience as you go through your design thinking sprint. And that sprint is going to take place during week 1 and the first part of week 2. Partway through week 2, you're going to break into groups that you choose based on the issues you're most excited about, which may or may not be the issues that you learned about in week 1, and may also include a combination of issues from the different countries in week 1. And then you're going to be able to dig deep into the creation of a plan that is desirable, feasible, and viable for you to bring to market. And at the end of week 2, everything is going to culminate with a big presentation of your final plan where you will win up to $10,000 to leverage to put that plan into action after Rustic Pathways. And that's, again, where this design thinking cycle of iteration happens. That $10,000 is going to be rewarded to the top ideas, and that funding will be used to further iterate on the idea and make impact. So that's all that I have for you today. Jordan and I are still here. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in that Q&A box, and we would love to hear from you. So what are you guys thinking?
Suzy, thank you so much for taking us through this and giving us a more understanding of not only the design thinking process, but how it'll relate to us in the summit. A question that came up, and actually came up yesterday, was this idea of with testing, how do we test in the community that we'll be wanting to possibly create ideas with? Yeah, there's just some questions about that both yesterday and today, so I wanted to see if you could speak to that one more time.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. So when it comes to design thinking and a best practice, it is always best to test something with the community that you're creating it for. So if you're creating an idea for the community that you were in week 1, in week 2, we're obviously going to be in a bit of a different place. So that's going to be a bit harder. So if that was the case, we would work with you, our experts would work with you to identify how can we create a proxy for this situation. Maybe there are people on site who are from Thailand that we can ask them some questions about or run them through our prototype. Or maybe, after the summit, you are going to return to the context of your everyday lives. So if you're creating something, maybe you end up creating something that is less about impacting the people on the ground in Thailand, Vietnam, and Cambodia directly. And maybe it's more about raising awareness or an understanding to create some sort of impact of what's happening there. And maybe in that case, your audience is not the people who are within Thailand primarily. Maybe the audience of your experience would be unique, passionate change makers, just like yourselves, who we'll have a lot of during week 2, who can walk through your prototype. Or maybe you're creating a prototype for people who have started social enterprise initiatives, and it's something that they can leverage to create change. At which point you have me, you have Jordan, you have Yasmin, you have Dahlia, you have Anuj, you have Emily, you have Snehal. There are going to be all sorts of people on site in week 2 to help you through your process, but who also have really unique backgrounds and capabilities and understandings. And that's an important thing for us to keep in mind, that as we're creating things, we might be impacting multiple groups of people. So for example, an awareness campaign that results in maybe some sort of impact in terms of providing better education or better understanding of gender equality. Maybe that's something that you run in your home countries that eventually makes its way back to the folks within those areas. And from that perspective, you could test in a number of different ways and gain empathy in a number of different situations. So the short answer is, in some cases, it's going to be a lot easier than others, and it really depends on the nature of your idea, but you have a ton of really great people who are there committed to helping you create the change that you want to see.
Another question that came up, and similar to yesterday, was how big are these group sizes, and are you going to be are you always going to be using the same idea and that you were exploring during week 1?
Also a very good question. So the way that groups will work is halfway through week 2, we will have the problems, the opportunities pretty well defined, and then we'll start ideating as a very big group. So everyone from all 3 countries where we spent week 1 will come together and work through this process together. And we will pitch ideas for solutions that we can create for this innovation challenge. From there, you guys are going to self-organize around the ideas that you're most passionate about solving. And that may or may not be the idea that you studied in week 1. But by that time, we will have worked together in a way where all of us, to a degree, should understand the different issues that everyone went through in week 1, regardless of whether or not you were on the ground in that country. So in week 2, you'll self-organize into whatever solution you're most excited about working on. Teams will probably be, I would guess, 4 to 7 people, but we're going to be flexible with that based on what we think would serve the solution best. And we have a lot of experts that are going to be there to advise. And you'll be able to kind of dig together and cross-collaborate in that way.
I'm going to just keep sharing some of these questions and that we're getting. Okay, so one person asked, is there going to be time during week 1 or 2 to explore around the city that you're staying in? And the answer is yes. We are providing opportunities as a group. You're not only going to be learning about entrepreneurship and design thinking, but we want you to have as much opportunity to get to see and experience the place that you're diving into and the people that you'll be meeting. And so understanding more history and culture and background of these places is so important. Plus, you're going to be doing that alongside students from around the world. So that's one of the things that we're most excited about is that fact. So the answer is yes, you will have time in week 1 and 2. We have a lot going on. The schedules are packed in so many ways, but we also know that some of the most valuable moments will come from pause, from taking a moment just to reflect and pause and breathe. Some of the most valuable moments can just be seeing a sunset or a sunrise that otherwise you wouldn't have if you weren't traveling, So although we are so excited for all the formal curriculum we have planned, we also are really strategic to leave time and space to do that as well, to just explore and know that your safety is our #1 concern. And so when you're exploring, we'll have really specific guidelines for what we think is the most safe way for you to navigate a new place, a new community that you'll be in. Like things like using a buddy system or traveling in groups. If we're going to a night market, you'll have very specific meeting points, and we'll go over all of this. There'll be a safety briefing before every activity you're doing. So you can be on the lookout for that and know that you have that to look forward to as well.
Absolutely. We're there to support you in the program in all sorts of ways. We have another question that came up that says, I'm scared about not finishing the idea or prototyping a solution from a previous experience. So what do we do if we're not finished in those 2 weeks? And I completely understand that concern. And that's actually one of the reasons why design thinking is so valuable and why design sprints are a really great tool. So I talked a little bit early on, very quickly, about what a design sprint is. A design sprint is a time-bound set of experiences that comes in these 5 stages of design thinking. So the idea, the concern that you might not get through this is a really good one, because there's so much that you could do and dig into each and every one of these stages. You can spend years on the ground in a country seeking to understand a group of people and still not be able to be fully there. We have people who dedicate their entire careers to just this stage of design thinking, to truly understanding people and their experiences. And that's why a design sprint is so powerful, because we can't spend years doing this. That's not the time that we have. The time that we have is over this 2-week period, which is why a design sprint is valuable. A design sprint allows us to, within a period of time, define how much time we're going to spend in each and every one of these stages. And in certain stages, you're going to be ready to move on real quick, maybe a bit too quickly. And so we have a certain amount of time that we're going to spend with empathy. Now, remember, this is the centerpiece of design thinking, and that's why we spend all of week 1 on this and part of week 2. From there, we have time-bound activities that we're going to do that are going to pull you through these stages to make sure we get through them. And we're not going to know everything at the end of this. Because in some places we're going to move a bit too quickly. But that's the idea of a sprint, because it's better to get through all of these stages and to test something in a small way, even if it fails, because remember, we want to fail often to succeed sooner. It's better to get through all of these stages and learn at the end of it and then know where to start again than it is to kind of get caught up in here. And so this concern about what if we don't get through it all, that's a really common one that has been shared by a lot of people over time, and that design thinking was actually in some ways designed to fix and is well equipped to fix. So we will work with you through what this looks like, and hopefully your prototype is everything you dreamed it would be and more. In some cases, we're just going to run out of time and we have to start testing what we have. And in a lot of cases with prototyping, when we run out of time, it's because we get caught up in this conversation of what would a person do if this, or what would they think if that, and what about these things? We get stuck in that conversation. And when we prototype it and we test it, it answers a lot of the questions, which allows us to start over into another set goal. So in terms of being able to finish in 2 weeks, we're going to help you with that, and know that we're not going to solve any of these issues in just 2 weeks. We're not going to solve, we're not going to bring any sort of idea through to full fruition, but that's okay, because this is going to give us a really good foundation of where to start and give us really good perspective on where we need to go.
Hi there. And then we also just saw another question come in about the electronic devices. So with your personal computer, your laptop, your iPad, what are you able to bring? So we really recommend that you use this also as a chance to disconnect in so many ways, that you can use these 2 weeks to be present with your surroundings, be present with your group and the communities you'll be learning from, and the communities and students that you'll be learning with as well. And with that, we're not recommending that anyone bring any electronic device. If you do choose to do that, you're doing that with your understanding that sometimes it will rain and you'll be in the middle of a village and your backpack is only going to protect so much. And so personally, we'd recommend you really disconnect, don't bring anything. If you do choose to bring your phone, you use it maybe only just to act as a camera, but really have it away for most of the time. Put it in a plastic bag if you need to. And what we will be having is we'll be having these tech office hours and opportunities for you to use other computers that we'll have accessible during week 2, or when you'll need that as part of the design sprint. But we are setting this up as if you will not be required to use a personal computer, laptop, iPad, anything like that.
So in that way, your prototypes are going to be less electronic versions of a thing and more physical prototypes that someone can touch and feel and interact with, or maybe some sort of experience walkthrough of a situation. And that's normal within the design thinking world.
So as we're coming up at the very end of this hour, feel free to add more questions. Feel free to contact at summit@rusticpathways.com. You're going to be receiving, or you just were in this last email that had the this design thinking webinar information. There was also links to our resources, our pre-departure resources that we want you all to be checking out beforehand. I'll post them in the Summit forum as well on Facebook. If you're not in our Summit forum, we would love for you to join. That's going to be a space where you can connect leading up to the summit, and most importantly, afterwards, when we want to keep these ideas and community and energy flowing. So be on the lookout for those resources in the forum. And if you could get a head start right now, check your email and you can dive in there. We've been really excited to create and be very intentional with what articles and talks and videos we put in there that could help you feel best prepared for week 1. And if there's any other questions, Summit at is the place to be. Summit at Rustic Pathways is your place to be able to answer and ask any questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I know you guys are probably getting ready to pack and get started, and it's wild that we're just a few weeks away, but we cannot wait to join you all in Southeast Asia.